Hello, Adolphus.
Hello.
So I am Mark Shapiro, Artistic Director of Cantori, New York, and it's my great pleasure to be with via Zoom the fantastic composer, Adolphus Hailstork, who has been a member of Cantori's advisory board for 17 years. We look back at the calendar. So our acquaintance is a longstanding one. So tell us where you are, Adolphus, and we'll start from there.
Well, right now I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Excellent. So, and I should frame this by saying that the reason you and I are having this conversation today is that Cantori New York will be performing your Ghost Chorales in May. And I think we're calling this the work's official premiere. Is that how we're going to talk about it?
That's fine, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you sort of clarify, actually, the title of the work is When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Blooms, or
Yes.
Ghost Chorales, or how does that fit together?
I put it with a brass trio piece that stands alone on its own. But after I finished that, I decided that the perfect thing, first of all, the brass piece is about the Civil War and the different aspects of it, including even a little movement called the Cannon Fodder March. And then when that was finished, I thought I needed something to round the piece off and bring a greater warmth and humanity to it. So I decided to use this famous Whitman text and attach that for choir. And the two of them together can make, I think, I hope would make a moving experience, because it was just a few years ago, was it 2015 or so, that we were commemorating the Civil War. So it was time to do something like that.
That's right, yeah. When you were thinking about, so I know you've written a lot of choral music.
Yes.
That's how we became acquainted. And were you, when you were thinking about Walt Whitman, were you considering other settings of Whitman, or how did that, how was
well,
that?
I've got one huge Whitman piece that I told myself years ago that I have to be at least in my 60s before I tackle Whitman, because I think, setting Whitman is quite challenging. To me, I thought it was. And so I waited.
Say more about why. What was it about Whitman that you found challenging?
Well, it's not sweet lyrical. I mean, it's not Moon and June and the flowers of bloom kind of nonsense. His rhythms are angular. His rhymes are almost non-existent at times. It's just not. If you've got, it's more of a dramatic poetry than lyrical poetry. So it's just not a sweet humdrum setting that you can do.
And Whitman, how did you feel that challenged you?
Well, Whitman requires, you have to have your technique together. You have to know what you're doing as in terms of writing for the choir. This big piece I wrote, Whitman's Journey, took all of the leaves of grass, and I went through them all and selected passages and created a 60-minute choral and orchestra piece with a baritone soloist. And so it's you have to have a craft. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Whitman requires good craft, or else I think it would, you're not up to it. You got to have the chops.
So I know that you teach, and I think you must be thinking about this question a lot about craft and chops. Can you speak to what those things are and what they are not as you survey the contemporary scene?
Well, I'm an adherent of traditional craft. I happen to like melody. I happen to like harmony, triadic harmony. I happen to like tonality. I happen to like pulse and rhythmic pattern and stability that way. I happen to like drama and flourish when it's necessary, etc. So what I meant by craft is based on my bias, which is a Euro-American bias in terms of tackling Whitman.
And do you feel any contentiousness or apologia in that bias, or how do you feel about it? Are you at peace with it?
No. Oh, for years, it was a case of, which side of the street am I walking here? And then I decided to walk both sides of the street. I call myself a cultural hybrid, meaning that I can utilize materials from the African American experience here in the country, and also utilize materials from the Euro-American training. And I mix it all and match it when I want to, juxtapose them. It's a mixed bag. So that's what I do. Everybody's got to solve the problem for themselves. And I thought my whole aesthetic is based on what I call authenticism, because there were so many isms that were coming. We're beaten over the head with so many isms when I was a student. You'd be a tonalism and minimalism and pointillism and all kinds of isms. And I had decided, well, what's the authenticism? What is authenticism? That is, using your own brain, your own muscle fiber for rhythm, your own ear and your own emotional heart. You put those together, and that's the authentic you as a composer. And I didn't want to contrive a whole bunch of and follow the contrivances of other people with all their isms.
I think that's so interesting. And everything I know in your music, I've always had such deep respect for its depth of craft in my own understanding of what that means. And the way you're able to be authentic. And I am assuming that the control of craft makes that possible. So would you say that's...
Like I said, you have to know your stuff. If you don't know how to harmonize, best stay away from trying to tackle a 60-minute setting of Whitman. If you don't know how to write a melody, the same thing. These are crafts. People, this is not, you sit in a room, plunk at the piano for several hours and find a chord you like, and then you tape it or something like that and play it over and over again. You got a piece. That's not crafts. I believe in counterpoint. If you've never written a fugue, you've never written a canon even, then how are you going to integrate different materials and have them overlap and juxtapose? And how do you connect phrases together? Everything is not connected with, here's one phrase, cadence. Here's another phrase, cadence. Here's another phrase, cadence. Music is not written like that. If it were, we'd be dead in the water. This is not, that comes in handy if you write a little baby waltz and you have 4 bars and you have another 4 bars. There's something I've heard that happens in pop music. I don't know much about pop music, I have to say, but or they use it in jazz. You exchange 4s and 8s. Okay, like you do 4 bars and then someone else responds with 4 bars. Then you do 8 bars, someone else responds with 8 bars, and then you've got a hook, and then you've got this set thing. That's I don't work that rigidly. At times I can if I'm writing a miniature piece, but I like to write large pieces. I've done many large pieces, and that's where I hope I've demonstrated sufficient craft to make them impactful.
I think that's so interesting, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, part of what is the impact is it sustains our interest over its time span.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's the thing. I keep telling my students, you know, the young people today, they're brought up so much visually. Oh my God. I mean, it's no wonder that music is even, you know, music is now used as background music to video games and a lot of that stuff. And of course, it's a great time for composers because all the video that's being produced, let's say in something like Netflix, they're constantly hiring composers to write the background music to all the different things they're doing. And, you know, okay, so if you want to be a songwriter, composer type of thing, that's fine. But the real challenge, and it's the challenge I took, is to move away from the video and can you sustain interest for an extended period of time? And if you can do that, to do that, you must have a craft, or else you're just going to bore people to death. You know, I've heard pieces that repeat things 37 times in a row and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to a concert when I was working on my doctorate, which a C major triad was held for 30 minutes. And I said, no, that's not quite the way for me. I know it was extreme minimalism, but it's like there's a place for it. There's a place for every single technique that the people have introduced us to, but it's not the end in itself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear us. There seems to be a big, a lot of fire trucks outside. Oh. But, so I'll just apologize to our listeners for that, but we are in New York City. I am in New York City, so it's part of the soundscape here.
You sure they're only firecrackers? Is that what you said?
Fire trucks.
Fire truck. Oh,
fire engines, yeah.
Right.
Sirens.
Okay, yeah.
So this too shall pass, listeners. So yeah, I think that's so interesting. And I wonder if I could even get you to verbalize how it is that craft enables a composer to sustain our interest. How does it work?
Oh, then I have to teach you the craft. You know, it's got to do with, well, the balance. The balance, okay. Music basically consists of points of rest and on the way to points of rest. Now, it's points of rest, of course, we call cadences, codas, whatever you like. On the way, now that's the thing. You have to be aware of the tension levels in your parameters, the tension in your harmony, the tension in your melody, the tension in your structure, where you truncate something instead of fulfilling the gesture, you truncate it, you cut it, and you create a dramatic what's going to happen next. If you can set up the what's going to happen next thing, then and then that has them on the edge of their seat, wondering in their head anyway, what's going to happen next. They don't know they're thinking like that. They don't even know their heart's beating faster because you sped up the tempo. But you must be able to manipulate your tension levels.
And do you think all listeners today are able to interact with tension in the way you're describing?
They're not aware of it. They're not aware of it unless they're trained musicians. My happiest responses are from trained musicians who walk up to me and say, I really enjoyed playing your piece. I really enjoyed being involved in your composition. And it's worth the work I had to put in on it. Mm-hmm. And a composer can't ask more than that. If you've got a happy performer who understands, because, you know, our performers, we must never underestimate, especially our well-trained classical performers, how much work they put in to mastering their instruments and what drives them to do it. Because at some point there was a passion in the piece that comes while they're playing it, and they know the piece is going somewhere and they're working their fingers to the bone to make this come off. And if you can write a piece like that's worth their time, their energy, and their heart, you've got it.
Yeah, there's a feeling I know as a performer that the composer, well, it is craft, exactly what you said, but that the composer really is a master of the materials, and you feel drawn through the piece.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, well said. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling. Now, am I remembering correctly that you trained in Paris partly?
Yeah, one summer in France with Nadia Boulanger.
And when was that?
Summer of '63.
And how was that experience working with Nadia Boulanger?
It was wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Probably the one of the greatest musical experiences I ever had, because the demands were high, the explanations and things she said were ear-opening and eye-opening. It was just a wonderful experience of people learning the craft, and taught by this master teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, on a personal note, I don't know if you know that I teach in a Paris program that is meant to be a bit of a successor program to Fontainebleau.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, where I've been for over a quarter century now. But did you happen to cross paths with Narcisse Bonnet when you were at Fontainebleau?
Say that again, please.
Narcisse Bonnet, does that name?
No.
Maybe not. He was sort of Boulanger's right-hand man for a number of years, but it might have started a bit later. Yeah.
It must have been, because she had a right-hand lady there who taught theory.
Louise Talma?
I can't remember the name. But she was the one who used the Hindemith basic training for musicians, where you had to tap and sing and play on the piano, all of that stuff at the same time.
All that super stuff,
and singing Bach with solfege and all of that. Yeah.
I wonder if you're thinking it's just a relevant story today of Annette Dieudonné, if that might have been her name. There's a wonderful story of her when Paris was occupied, of rescuing the manuscripts of Don Giovanni from a library.
Oh my goodness.
In World War II. I think that might be who you're talking about, but yeah, she was remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you, I don't remember if you told us if you would be able to come to this performance. Are you going to be able to get to New York?
What's the date again?
That's a good question, and I should have it ready. So
Gotcha.
I will tell you momentarily. It's May 14th and 15th.
May 14th. Yes. Remember, why did I recently have a communication that said 11 and 12? And then I wrote back and said, I thought it was the 14th. And so I think you may need to change, revisit that. It is the
it's the weekend, yeah, the 14th and 15th, yeah.
Okay. I received a communication from your organization that was going to be 11th and 12th, and I confirmed I was going to be there.
Okay, I'll check into it.
Sure at least one of them. Yeah, at least one of them, and I will be there. The answer was yes. I have to hear this piece. I'm hoping, by the way, that I can get it.
Well, we love it, and as you may remember, we made a virtual video of it, of one of the movements during the pandemic. You know, virtual choir was not our where our hearts necessarily were, but the pandemic made us all do things that we had to do.
Right.
And singing that piece during everything that was going on in the world was very powerful for all of us, that first movement. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Super. Well, I think that's all we really need. I don't want to keep you for longer. So I'm going to turn off the recording, Adolphus, and I'll stay on just to say thank you. But thank you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.